listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome. We are so happy to have you. You are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business show. And you might be thinking, wow, why are you on now? We thought you were going to be on an hour ago. Well, there was some kind of issue with StreamYard, and neither my co-host Alcine nor I were able to get on. So do apologize, but we know the show must go on. So Mr. Cini is not able to join us right now. So I will be doing this show alone. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. It is my pleasure to welcome, joining us live from Boca Raton, Florida, it is JoAnna Brandi. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, it's so good to see you in that bright orange. I love it from the first time we met.
Thank you.
It's all part of your branding and your messaging and you being Chief Happiness Officer, correct?
Actually, the wall is not part of my branding, but I guess it's becoming part of my branding. It was years ago, one of the writers I was working with at the end of a project sent me a beautiful postcard, and on it was the picture of a Tuscan building in Italy with this beautiful Tuscan orange wall and the faux finish and some flowers. I saved that postcard for years and years, and the last time that the painters were here painting, I pulled out the postcard. I said, any chance you could make the wall behind me look like this? And he said, sure, why not? So that's my Tuscan wall. And that
it's beautiful. And as I said, when I first met you through Lunch Club, I remember that dynamic background because it just makes you feel happy and it just makes you feel good inside. And I know that's a lot of what you're about.
It does. And the painting behind me is done by a very famous artist by the name of Tia Crystal, who happens to be a friend of mine. And I adore her artwork. Every one of her paintings, you can't see it from here, but they're embedded with crystals. And if you put a light up to it, they sparkle and shine. And there's actual sand. That's my favorite ocean picture that she's ever painted. And when the last time she was moving, I was at the house when she was moving, and she said that painting was going into storage. And I must have been so shocked. It was like, no, that's my
no.
And before you know, it got delivered here. So this was, it's not a gift, it's for sale, but it's a wonderful feeling every time I walk in the room, because I am a beach baby, and that's why I live here. And this, it's about creating a surrounding that makes you happy, right?
So important, yes. Yeah. And I'd like to just dive in a little bit about your title, Certified Chief Happiness Officer. That is a cool title that I've never actually met anyone with. So I'm going to spotlight you, JoAnna. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the significance of the title, why you've chosen it, what it means to you?
Well, I didn't choose it. I got certified.
I know, yes.
Yeah. This is a program that takes place as a joint venture between the Florida International University and WAHASU. And WAHASU is the World Happiness Summit. And I was part of the inaugural class. It was a spectacular experience. It was a 3-day program, very intense, taught by an Italian PhD who teaches here in the US. His name is Sandro Formica. Who was just a delight, an absolute delight. And so I spent 3 days, I think it was 2 Junes ago, it's going on 2 years now, and was part of that first inaugural class. And what it did is it helped me. I'm also a happiness coach that studied with Dr. Martin Seligman. So my original training was with Marty Seligman and then Barbara Fredrickson. And when I discovered the science of happiness, I never stopped studying it. So I keep taking different trainings because there's so much new science literally every week that I want to be sure I'm on top of it. So it's not a title I chose as much as it's a certification that I chose. And I think it helps me bring more value to my clients.
And of course, I've met you before and kind of knew a little bit of your backstory. And I thought it was important for you to share with people. There are a lot of coaches out there who are not certified. You know, you could go on LinkedIn. I think there's 6 million coaches, and there's a percentage that are not certified. So you took the time to find a program that resonated with you and for which you have your certification. So that's why I was clapping backstage to say, you know, kudos for you. I think that's really terrific. And I know with the coaching that you do, you help people be more productive.
I do. The science of happiness is very interesting because it covers so many different areas. When you are experiencing a positive emotion, which we could call happy, or maybe we just could call it positive, but when you are experiencing a positive emotion, it impacts the brain very differently. The right hemisphere of the brain and the left hemisphere of the brain begin communicating better together, giving you a more holistic look on things, the ability to see the larger picture. And in doing that, it helps you to become more productive because you're not shutting down any portion of your brain. You've got the full access of your brain. Positive people report being more productive just in the presence of positive people. So I think that's really, really important for businesses to understand. If they focus on bringing more positivity to their culture, bringing more happiness to their people will get more productive and way more creative.
And JoAnna, the work that you're doing is so important, especially now when people have been traumatized in a lot of ways. And just, you know, and again, I think it's how you look at everything. So if you look at things and say, there were positives that came out of it, I am grateful, I am blessed, do your affirmations. When we look at building a culture of positivity, you are an incredible resource for organizations to work with you to help engage their people. Like you just said, if their people are happier, they're more productive, it's a better culture, there's better business, customer relations. So what are some of the tips that you might have for business owners when they're trying to create a culture like this?
Well, I teach actually 5 different parts of it. The first one is, as a leader, to first go inside and discover who you are. Because a leader who hasn't done her work or his work is not going to show up authentically. And especially now, we are in a world where authenticity really, really, really matters. And then it's putting a focus on how do I create more positive capacity in the areas of relationships. So how do we really nurture those positive relationships? How do we create a more positive climate for everyone? Because climate is responsible for 30% of your financial results. So you want to make sure that you're creating this deeply nurturing, rich, positive environment. How do we create positive meaning? And how do we use positive communication? So it's actually rather structured with a lot of room for customization, I would say.
I like that answer. Thank you. JoAnna, when we think about where we are in the world today, of course, it's different wherever you are, but some places are completely open and some places are not. Some places you don't have to wear a mask, but people are still wearing masks. And I actually experienced this myself this week. And my question for you is, in terms of happiness and positivity, we just came out of something. Some people are still in it. But how do we reconcile with this need to retreat because we've been isolated, and then the need to get back out of there? How do we balance those two things to find our happiness?
Well, I think we have to understand ourselves really well. And I think we have to be bold enough to be able to speak what we need. I don't think we can count on our boss to ask the question, although we should be able to count on the boss to ask the question. I'm not sure we're there yet. So I think we really need to be brave and speak what we need. For some people, getting back into close contact with others is causing anxiety. So if you're one of those people that feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not quite ready to go back to the office yet, I'm not ready to be so close to people, you have to feel empowered enough to speak up and say, what can we work out? I love working here. I love the work. I think my teammates are great. And just right now, I'm not ready. So I think we have two things going on. We need leaders who are willing to ask those questions and really listen to the answers. And we have people that need to empower themselves to be perhaps a little bit more honest than they're used to being in the workplace. And of course, as you know, Dr. Jacalyn, that brings up fear.
The old four-letter word of fear. Yes. And, something I think we should talk about, just being very candid, even though we are, I'm not speaking for you, I'm just saying in general, certified, educated, trained people, that doesn't mean that we don't have fear. That doesn't mean it doesn't come up for us, but it's how we deal with it. And then it's also, I believe, giving ourselves grace to feel that way, but setting a boundary for how long we'll feel that way. What do you think about that?
Oh, and I love that you use the word grace. And I'm constantly looking for grace for myself because I grew up in a very overachieving environment. And I won't go into that, but we tend to drive ourselves very hard. And this has been quite a learning experience for me because I have to, with grace and with love, be compassionate for myself when I am exhibiting the same behaviors as everybody else. Because I think sometimes as teachers, we think that we shouldn't have to, we're here to teach people how to get out of it. I think one of the graces, if you will, of this pandemic is that nobody was spared. So those of us who have experienced anxiety in the past have experienced anxiety now. Those of us, I have PTSD in my background. Those of us who have even gone past that, and that when you move past PTSD, you're in PTG, post-traumatic growth. But even those of us who were in the growth mode got hit with this because there's so much trauma all around us. There's trauma, there's grief, and there's. And again, I know I'm talking to the choir when I'm talking to you, Jacalyn. We pick it up energetically. We don't necessarily just pick it up from a human being. We're picking it up from the environment, from the news, from what we read. So I think that all of us in any kind of a leadership position have to learn how to treat ourselves with compassion first, because many of us are not above feeling the same emotions people are feeling right now, because first and foremost, we're all human.
Yes, definitely. Good points. JoAnna, you mentioned that you grew up in a home, a family of high achievers. And I think that's really interesting. I don't know if you want to share about it, but I'm wondering how growing up in that environment correlated or translated, if it did, to your work at Return on Happiness.
I think more of some of my business experience correlated with it, but the growing up in that kind of environment, both my parents were children of immigrants. Both of them were lawyers. My mom was one of the first 4 women or 5 women in New York to receive a law degree. So she was a pioneer, and it was tough. She was Italian. At a time when Italians weren't always looked up to, and she was in a man's world. So she taught her daughters to be tough broads. And I'm sure you know what I mean. It was a challenging growing up, and I'm an empath, so here I was. This very sensitive child being told to keep your stiff upper lip. So there was a lot of conflict. When I had a lot of business experiences before I ended up in a corporate job that I stayed in for 12 years. And that was just as challenging. The company was run by a husband and wife. It was a big company, but it was run by a husband and wife. So it was almost as if I had duplicated my childhood in having two bosses, a female and a male, both of whom were hard driving people. And I remembered many nights where I literally went home and cried. And you couldn't cry at work. So I'd come home and I'd cry. And part of what I teach came out of growing up in a culture that was, it was a good culture. It was an achievement culture, but it didn't leave a lot of room for somebody like me. That was a little bit more sensitive, that maybe took a little bit more time to understand things. I'm also very kinesthetic and not quite as visual as some other people were. So when I teach, I always keep in mind that a leader's job is to move people out of their comfort zones and into their stretch zones without taking them into their panic zones. Because I spent most of my corporate career in a state of panic because it just simply wasn't a gentle environment. Let's put it that way.
And it sounds like I'm thinking about leadership in my past career in corporate. There's a lot of trust that is needed before you can let go of that panic to move out of the zone of comfort, I think. So if a leader can build that rapport and that relationship with you and let you know that they truly care about you, it's not just about posting numbers, guys. It's not just about that. It's about building a culture where people respect one another and want to lift each other up for the common good.
And that's beautifully said. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that trust comes over time. And I call it building an emotional bank account. As if we each have a little checklist in our head, just like our customers do. We each have a little checklist in our head, and there's one column that has a plus, and there's one column that has a minus. And every time we interact, I'm putting a check mark, either in the plus column or the minus column. And then at the end of the interaction, you sum it up. Did I have a good experience? Was it a good employee experience? Was it a good customer experience? Or do the negatives outweigh the positives? And we're constantly doing that. And trust is so important right now. And I don't know if you have read this yet, because the stats are still coming in. People are quitting their jobs in droves. In droves. I have been talking to a potential client in the hospitality industry. And he wrote just yesterday morning to tell me that he didn't think the training program we've been talking about was going to fly. And he added in there that in the last several days, he'd lost, 8 or 10 of his top people. They're just leaving. And this is an organization that you would recognize as a good company and a good culture. So people are, maybe the pandemic shook them up and made them realize they didn't really want the job they have. And now, because there's so many jobs open, boom, they're gone.
So you bring up a really valid. You bring up a really valid point. I know in Philadelphia, I had read that the restaurants are having a hard time finding people to work. Mm-hmm. So I think that the one thing we all have in common, of course, there's other things, but we want to be happy. We want to be in peace. We want to live a life that we love. And so it starts with basic things like loving yourself, doing the work for yourself before you can go out into the world. And if you are a leader, if you are in business and you are responsible for other people, you have to do that work, because the minute you walk in, they see it. Even on a Zoom call, you can tell if somebody's engaged or they're not engaged.
Yeah. It's not only seeing it, it's feeling it. One of the exercises I do is called check what you're broadcasting. It's a practice. Of going in and realizing that the electromagnetic field outside your body extends pretty darn far. So before you ever get in the room, your energy made it there first. Yes. So one of the things I have everybody from leaders to salespeople to nonprofit people, before they go in anywhere, Check what you're broadcasting. Are you feeling good? Are you at least neutral? Are you at least neutral? Or are you anxious about making the sale or delivering the report or giving the speech? What is your energetic body saying before you get in that room? And that's one of the I know that you know so many of these things. That's one of the things that I ask people to start paying really close attention to. And if they tend towards the anxious or tend towards the extremely focused, very time leaders are not anxious. They're just extremely focused on something, a problem they're working out in their head. They can be perceived as not being friendly. They can be perceived as not being warm. So one of the practices I have people do is literally take their hand, put it on their heart, take a breath, think about something they appreciate, and allow the oxytocin to begin flowing in their body, and then walk in the room. Because your energy will be perceived as warmer, friendlier. You'll be radiating positivity because that's what you'll be thinking about. And boy, having that person walk in the room is really different.
Excellent. I love that. You show up before you show up, basically.
Perfect. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think that's an article. You show up before you show up.
JoAnna, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors, but stay with us here on The Business Show. We'll be right back.
Love it. Thanks.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
The world of healthcare is benefiting us in many ways, but the risk of becoming a victim to an airborne infection is increasing at a fast pace too. There are threats from viruses, allergic pollen, and chemicals which cause you loss of health, income, business, mental health, family and friends. All are at stake. One solution to this threat are the BV Air Sanitation Placide-based systems. When you call our team on 0208 104 3253, you find out about the amazing protection available. Protection that uses certified Battlefield, tested, standard and customized air disinfection systems for your personal and business use. Each system uses a filterless technology known as Placide, which attacks all airborne particles with microlighting to destroy and eliminate viruses and other harmful particles in your office, transport and home. You also benefit from extra bonuses such as low running and maintenance costs, no regular filter and part changes. You get to work with our trained experts and professional staff and be made aware of the latest in airborne protection and disinfection strategy. Keep yourself healthy by working with our trained experts and Placide virus killing systems, which keep you safe from airborne viruses. BV Air Sanitation Limited. We save lives, save businesses, and prevent infection. Schedule your free consultancy call and virus protection checklist. Call 0208 104 3253 or connect to us on www.bvbuster.com.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business show. I am your host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and my guest is JoAnna Brandi, and she is a certified Chief Happiness Officer. Her website is www.returnonhappiness.com. JoAnna, we were talking about a multitude of things before we went to the break. And I think one message I want to get across, it's a period of change, transition, and hopefully transformation for a lot of people. And at the core of that is finding your own happiness. And the way to do that, whether it's personally or professionally, is to work with a coach. Absolutely. And you are that expert. You mentioned a number of different offerings that you have, but I'd love to have you share with us, what does the process look like if an individual wants to work with you or if an organization wants to hire you?
It's pretty simple. I don't have any special offers or anything like that. Most people find me through hearing me speak. Most people, and I always interviewed my clients afterwards to say, why did you choose this? Did you have a problem? What problem were you trying to solve? And a lot of people just say to me, no, I wanted the energy. I wanted you to bring that energy to my organization. People find me on LinkedIn. They find me. I do a newsletter. I'm on Facebook, not as quite as much. I'm trying to focus my time on LinkedIn right now. And I used to get all my business from speaking at conferences. So I'm another one that has to reinvent her business because I'm not on the stage.
So that brings me to a great point. I've heard from my colleagues, different parts of the country, people are going to conferences again. They are.
Yeah, I have not been invited to one yet in person. I was invited to speak at a meeting about a month ago in New Orleans, and I decided to do it virtually. And that was a consideration because my family was concerned about my traveling. And so now, you never had to consult with your kids before you decided whether you were going to take a job or do this. But it was such an issue that we discussed it. And it was like, Mom, if you can do it virtually, do it virtually. And so I did. And it wasn't the best experience. I love doing virtual when everybody else shows up virtually. It's those blended things that are really hard. When you got people in the room, you got people on Zoom, you're trying to figure out who to pay attention to. That one I find really challenging. So it's easy to find me. I'm returnonhappiness.com is an easy way to engage. JoAnna at returnonhappiness.com. I did a few years ago develop an online course. And that was by request because people said, this is a pretty robust program. I used to do it originally. My positive leadership program was 2 days long. And then I started cutting it down because I got more clients by having a 1-day program. And then people started asking me if there were any other alternatives. And that program, it's called The Practice of Positive Leadership. That's over at positiveenergizer.com. Because what happens when you become a positive leader is that you energize people. And you actually, according to Dr. Kim Cameron at the University of Michigan, you actually you have 4 times more impact when you are using this strategy of creating more positivity at work.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? I think that you definitely have this energy about you that is
what I've been told.
The word? Yes, you do. And you know what else I like just from a branding? I like how your coloring, your hair and your top, they go together. It's very what's the word?
That was strictly by chance this morning. That was strictly by chance. Now I'm going to say, sometimes I wear an orange sweater that matches the wall.
Nice.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like everything I've done up until this moment has prepared me for this moment. to be teaching about emotional intelligence, to be teaching about emotional well-being at a time when people really need to hear it. When I do my workshops, one of the first exercises that I do is to ask, I typically get business because I work with groups of CEOs. So I'll have a group of, say, 12 CEOs in the room. And the first exercise I have them do is go around and fill in the blank on this sentence. When someone leaves an interaction with me, I want them to leave feeling. And then I ask them to put an emotion at the end of that sentence. And then after we've gone all around the room, the next slide comes up and it says the F word in business. And what is the F word in business? Feelings. Because we typically don't say, okay, gather around, folks, we're going to have a meeting about feelings now. We've pretty much we've buried them under the table. But I think from the explosion of attention on the customer experience and then working that backwards into, you don't get a great customer experience unless your employees are having a great experience. Really set the stage for what I'm doing now.
Well, we're glad that you are where you are now, and we're glad that you are sending light and love into the world and teaching other people how to do it too, how to show up authentic and how to find their authentic happiness.
Well, there's so many benefits, and the physical benefits to a culture. For instance, when people feel good, when they're experiencing a positive emotion, their bodies are producing more endorphins. What do endorphins do? Endorphins allow us to adapt to change quicker. It's not that they're just pain killing. They allow us to embrace change in a different way. And because we're living in this time of change, I think it's incumbent upon leaders to be asking those kinds of questions. What can I do to create more positivity? Because positivity creates endorphins and dopamine and serotonin, which will help people rest and digest so they don't get sick, and produces oxytocin, which is that tend and befriend chemical. We're chemical beings. Happiness is not a vague state of mind. It's a physical state of the body. It can be measured in the body. So when we broaden our idea of what happiness means, and really just think about, how do I create more positive capacity in my organization? How can I create more positivity? Because when I create that, I create something called psychological capital. So I'm creating hope, I'm creating optimism, I'm creating more resilience. You're creating something that is really important to the organization, which in the end you can put a dollar sign on.
And I think the one thing we can't put a dollar sign on is how important it is to be happy and to be true to ourselves. And I really want to give a message to the leaders out there. I don't care if you're leaders in politics, in business, in your home. When you are responsible for other people, you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to take care of yourself. Leaders are people too. They're going through all kinds of things. So I think it's important. Listen, at any given time, I have between 5 and 7 coaches myself, because I don't know everything. I'm only human. Yeah. Yeah. So I really see so much value in working with a coach. And I think what you're doing is really brilliant. And would love for you to just share with our audience the best way to get in touch with you. We are running your banner, but for people on Business Talk Radio, the website and your contact information again, please.
Sure. I'm JoAnna at returnonhappiness.com. The website is returnonhappiness.com. And if you go there and type in returnonhappiness.com/BE-attitudes, I have a new special report that I made over this last year. And it's all about what kind of attitudes do I have to embody? So what do I have to be as a leader in order to do the work of a leader? And that's a free report. So it's returnonhappiness.com/BE-attitudes. And I'm posting those on LinkedIn now, one a week, with a little, my voice is behind the picture. Not quite a moving video. Not quite a moving video.
Well, we wish you continued success, and we're so happy that you're here. And when I get back to Boca, I've got to get together with you. Maybe that'll be in the fall.
Love that. Oh, I would like. Can you imagine us over a glass of wine looking over the ocean? We'd be there for hours.
Well, I think it's going to happen before the end of the year. So
good. I love that. I love that. It's a good time to be because there's such a beautiful breeze at the ocean this time of year.
So nice. I know.
My happy place.
I'll look forward to it. So thank you again, JoAnna, for being here. And remember, for all of you, if you just joined in, go over and subscribe to Dr. Jacalyn, LLC on YouTube. You can watch the show from the beginning. You can find all of our content there. Thank you so much, JoAnna. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
It's so much fun. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. JoAnna is just a wonderful person. She's got a beautiful heart and spirit, and she really does care about people and helping you find your authentic happiness. So please do contact her. Go over to her website or email her. And if you missed it, you can go back over. I'll just run her banner again, returnonhappiness.com, and you can find her on LinkedIn. We've got 2 shows coming up. Right after this is A Better You. And JoAnna might be interested in this. This is a presentation platform. We are looking for presenters. We are looking for coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. What you get an opportunity to do is really threefold. The first, you can present a 15-minute lesson. Think of all the content you have in the brain, in your desk, on your computer, all the things you put together over the years. You can present 15-minute lessons to go towards building your own playlist. And then for each lesson, you can put together a 5-question quiz. We take the lesson and the quiz and put it up on our online learning portal that we will be launching July the 1st. And this is a great way for you to earn passive income. People come there, students come there, content creators come there, and your lessons are there. They're buying your lesson while you're doing what you love to do, which is working directly with clients. So we have the actual opportunity to come on stage and present in front of a live audience. And then, of course, it stays out there on social media. And you get to build your brand that way, and also you get PR. The second is you get to have passive income by being on the platform with the lessons. And the third is we're planning our in-person event, Journey to a Better You, the second or third week of October 2022. We figured it was pretty safe to wait until then. And we are going to have 1,000 people, coaches, consultants, trusted advisors, people who want to learn from coaches, consultants, trusted advisors, people who supply to the industry, people from human resources. So we'd love to have you join us. It's either going to be in Orlando or in Nashville. So that's our next show, A Better You. And then after that, we have In the Name of Love. And we have a very touching story. A mother and father are coming on in love for their daughter, who is going through a very difficult time. And we want to try to get the word out to see if we can help her. Her name's Natalie. If we can help her any way that we possibly can. So that's all for now. Look forward to seeing you very shortly, I think in 20 minutes, for A Better You. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, JoAnna. Take care.